Welcome back to another episode of Harmonious at Lunch, the show that fuels your business success. I'm Greg Gano, your host and guide through the world of harmonious business growth. Today, we're unlocking powerful strategies with industry experts to help your business thrive. If you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or executive, you are in the right place. Join me and our incredible guests today on the journey to clarity, growth, and success. It is time to revolutionize your approach to business. Let's dive in with another episode of Harmonious at Lunch. Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. And today we're talking about LinkedIn, a profile where, or a platform, where if you hear me say that, you're either very excited for this conversation or very, very scared. That's at least my experience when mentioning LinkedIn to people. I have a LinkedIn specialist with me today. We're going to talk about gaining clients the right way on LinkedIn for you and your business. So Daniel Alfon, welcome to the show and thank you for being here.
Brandon, thanks. Thank you very much for having me on at Harmonious Lunch.
Thank you for being here. I mean, I'm excited for this conversation. Let me start with a little bit of confirmation here. Do you find the same thing? Do people either get very excited to talk about LinkedIn or very scared when they talk to you?
I think you nailed it. Sometimes the feelings could be even simultaneous. But yes, they're the people who are running seven-figure businesses. When it comes to LinkedIn, they're afraid of calling the shots and making simple decisions that on a day they would make dozens of decisions much harder than that, and they seem frozen and incapable of reaching a decision.
That's interesting. I'd love to unpack that a little bit more. I know it's not exactly what we're here to talk about today, but I think that's quite interesting to hear that perspective. But what we're here to talk about today is the missing part to gaining clients on LinkedIn, and it starts with an S. What are we talking about?
I was listening to a conversation you had with Sonny Miller that also starts with an S about building lasting long-term relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that building long-term relationship is the single most important aspect that you could leverage LinkedIn with. And most people look at LinkedIn as sort of a transactional thing, like disposable relationship. And in the long term, they lose because it's much easier to keep in touch with people once you don't need anything from them than knocking on your door 3 years later and say, "Hey, Brandon, now I'm having a bad quarter. Could you help me out?"
Interesting. And most people, I assume, look at it with the approach of, I need to get something from this week, this month. And of course, that doesn't build a real relationship.
Right, because when you meet someone, in order for you to be a partner of them, for them, it could be some time till you understand what they're looking for, till you see if there's a match. In some cases, there will not be a match, and we go and we part our ways, and that's fine. But you need to help them first before you ask anything. Just like real life, LinkedIn hasn't changed any way our minds are wired. It's just another platform. But if you only keep seeing that name and knowing that they're going to ask you for something, then you're not very excited about replying to that message or doing what the person asks for. So keep it real.
I like the advice. I'd like to hear how you do this practically, and how our listeners can take this and implement it today, maybe. But I see every single day I'm on the platform. I don't use it for outreach. I really don't even post anything other than these episodes. I'm more of a consumer of content, and even then, not so much. But what I do get is 100 people a day in my inbox. Some of them look like they want to add value. Others are just spamming me and wanting me to buy their stuff. And I'm sure our listeners feel the same way. So in this sea of ever-growing spammers DMing you, how do you actually show up and add value and be authentic? Because even like I said, some of them do that. And then 3 messages later, it's here, buy my stuff. So how do you do this the right way?
Cool. There are 2 aspects I'd like to dive into. One, and that's bite-sized aspect, something you could form actually today. When you visit LinkedIn, there's a notification and you can go to notifications and see what your network is up to. So say you have 2,000 connections, then on any given day, you may have 5 or 6 birthdays, or maybe 1 or 2 people starting a new position. People who have, 400 connections would maybe have 1 birthday a day, and maybe someone starting a new business once a week. But taking the time to build that relationship means instead of just saying, you know what, Ben has done great, or sending a meaningless congrats or a meaningless happy birthday, because let's admit it, the 40th time you get a cookie cutter message like that, you're less excited. Most people are. Take the time to visit that person's profile, see what they're up to, and leave the LinkedIn platform to continue building the relationship with them. The biggest secret is to know when to leave the platform. The platform may have reminded you that a certain business connection of yours has a new business or have her birthday, his birthday. But you don't have to stay on LinkedIn. Move away. Schedule a chat, send them an email, offer them a coffee, do whatever it takes for you to keep that relationship going. And you can do it with 1 to 2 minutes a day. In fact, 1 or 2 minutes a day is probably better than binging LinkedIn for 6 hours once a week, because it makes less sense for me to wish you. When is your birthday, Brandon?
Me personally, June 1st.
Great. So imagine I would message you on June 20th saying happy birthday. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. So try to have clarity in the sense that you don't have to use LinkedIn a lot, but if you use it, do it strategically. Even if you have 5 notifications, pick one that is more important for you and follow up seriously. Move outside of the LinkedIn platform. Ask how it could help.
I've never heard anybody say that. I'm going to be honest with you. And normally what I hear is, engage on the platform because the platform likes that, of course. But this is a really unique approach, and I want to unpack it a little bit. So I was just looking over here as you were talking. For those who are not familiar, I'm pretty sure what you're talking about is the My Network tab and then the catch up instead of grow, catch up. And then you look at what your network is up to. So I just clicked on mine. I have people starting new positions. I have people celebrating 7 years in their position. I have a couple of birthdays. So you're saying for these people, I obviously, I don't know all these like that well. Some of them I do. For those who I want to develop a relationship with, let's do this one. Lee started a new position as president and co-founder at a company whose name I will keep anonymous for the moment. How would I take that conversation off of LinkedIn? I don't have Lee's phone number. I don't have his email. Is that a conversation I would take off LinkedIn, or is that maybe not the right approach?
I think you're the right judge. And once you decide Lee is an important person to keep in touch with, then yes, I would advise you to do that. And the easiest way to do it would be to visit Lee's profile and to scroll and see the new business he's launched and the date he's launched. Because the fact that on the day you visit your notifications, you see that Lee has updated your profile does not necessarily mean that they started their business today. And if they only updated it now, but they actually launched a business 7 months ago, it doesn't make sense to say, congrats. You need to ask them how they're doing, or you need to switch the conversation to another level. So take 1 more minute and go to that person's profile and scroll down and read. Reading has become a lost art. It takes.
I don't know what is reading. What is this? Okay, I all jokes aside, we know how to read here. I like it.
People will not do that.
So no, that's a great tip already, and you can tell, right? You can tell when people are sending you messages if it's just a very cold. I'm selling. It's the end of the year. I'm selling health insurance. How do you know I need health insurance? I probably don't need that. Why are you reaching out to me like this? This is making no sense. But that's a fantastic tip. So what else? I think you said there was 2 parts. I'm not sure if you covered both of them yet, but going through your network and seeing what they're up to. What else do we do to build authentic, real relationships with people?
Excellent. So you may not like the second bit, but I'll mention it still. It is having a connection strategy. And I'm afraid some of our listeners and some of the viewers do not have a connection policy on LinkedIn.
Okay, so talk to me about that.
Because
What do you mean by that?
by that I mean that many people, many business owners react. So if they got an invitation, they check that person out, they say, okay, that looks interesting, they would connect. But the question I would like you to ask for this, for yourself is this. If I had to pick one for 2028, which policy would work best for me? Being the most connected or being the best connected?
Oh, that's a good question.
Mind you, both are great. Trouble is when you can't decide, when you don't make up your mind and you try to have it both ways, Brandon, you might end up with having very little quality and not enough exposure. Plus, your inbox will have a high percentage of spam. But if you keep to the network and people you know, you get less messages. You could ignore 90% of them and you would sleep better.
So are you also advocating that we go through our current connections list and maybe unconnect with people? Or is that just wherever you are now, start this policy moving forward?
It makes more sense to start this policy and see if you stick to it and if it works for you. And then what you could do in the disconnection process is simply to give those people a chance to visit their profile and say, you know what, we connected 2 years ago, we haven't been in touch, but now I see that you're doing A, B, and C. Last week I spoke with Jane, and Jane may be interested. Would that be a good lead for you? And if they don't respond or respond in a way that's unprofessional, by all means, it's better to remove them. But if you manage to turn that virtual relationship into a real life relationship, you don't have to disconnect. All you have to do is engage. But most of us have a limited bandwidth. Maybe your bandwidth is 5 times as large as mine, but everyone has some level and they can't handle 20,000 people. They can't handle masses unless it's automated and it looks cheap.
So let me ask you that, because I think that's, for me at least, that's the harder part of relationships. A true relationship is someone you know things about, and you at least have conversations with. If you have even a few hundred connections, how do you Daniel, manage being in relationship with these people and following up maybe every couple of months? Because I think it's so easy to schedule that first virtual coffee, whatever it is, 15, 30 minutes. It's the remembering what was said and when to follow up, and then figuring out actually when to follow up. And you start to have this snowball effect. I don't think anyone can effectively manage multiple hundreds of relationships. So what's your advice around that?
Well, I love the question, and I'll try to suggest 2 or 3 quick ways. One is to think of the conversation as a conversation where the outcome should be you knowing what the person is interested in,
Okay.
rather than pitching your services.
Yeah.
So if I come to a conversation and I'm asking you questions about what you're interested in, like my question is, who would be a good lead for What If, or for Human Up, or for the business you're managing? Then I would listen to what you say. I would probably have some follow-up questions until I understand a bit better. And what would happen naturally, Brandon, is that 2 months down the road, I may speak with someone and then I will remember you, not because I had a reminder saying, Brandon, it's been 2 months since we had the first virtual coffee, but because something they said clicked with something I remembered from a conversation. So you end the conversation with 1 or 2 labels, they're interested in moving from this to that. And then the good news is that you don't have to scout content or people or leads for them. All you have to do is keep your ears open. At one time, there will be something. And some of the business that came my way, I know for a fact it happened because I sent people some information. Sometimes it was about a meetup, an article, a business partner, whatever. And then when they needed someone who could use my services, they came to me. So ask good questions, listen to the answers, and maybe classify or prioritize a limited number of people you want to stay in touch with regularly, at least once a quarter, whatever works for you, and don't make that number higher than maybe 5 or 10. For most of our viewers, 5 is good. And if you invest in 5-term relationships, it could increase your revenues 20% down the road. It's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. That was actually the story of this year. Well, it's still 2024. Well, not when this airs, but when we're recording it. This year feels like forever for me, but that was one of our strategies going into 2024 was having 3 or 4, so an even smaller number of really, really good strategic partnerships. And our business completely blew up, like more than 20%, we'll say. So that's, Daniel, I appreciate your conservative number there, but that's a very real fact that will happen. I'm also curious, when you're saying this, I love everything you just said. And maybe you don't struggle with this. Maybe the listeners don't struggle with this, but I can't stress how small my brain is. So I like to leverage technology where possible. When you're saying, keep mental tags of what people are saying, do you leverage technology, whether it's just keeping a note on the calendar or maybe on LinkedIn, maybe a CRM? Like, how do you remember those little things that people say that they're looking for so that you can make those really high quality introductions?
Cool. So my brain's probably much smaller than yours.
We'll have to measure after the show. We'll take care of that.
And still, I don't use any CRM system. LinkedIn used to have tags maybe 12 years ago. They discontinued it. So the thing is really to limit the number of people you try and stay in touch with until they become part of your system. In other words, if we catch up twice or 3 times or 4 times during the first year, then it will make no mental effort for me to remember, because you would have explained new things to me. I would have understood things I didn't know the first time. So looking back at what you said, you provide clarity to a business, and clarity is very important. Instead of trying to serve hundreds of people, pick the right ones to start with and service them in a good way. And then what would happen is that you would get a lot more referrals. Referrals are good for most of our listeners' business, because let's face it, referrals, they're less price sensitive. They come almost pre-sold. The relationship is warm because someone introduced them to you, and you could build and scale your business built on relationships and referrals if you do it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, just piggybacking off of that, I would say 98 to 99+% of people that I talk to do not have an effective sales process to go from cold to client. So referrals are actually gold for almost 100% of our listeners. And if you don't understand that in your business, please go back and re-listen to this episode, because this will absolutely change the trajectory of your business. Daniel, we could have gone in 1,000 other directions. There's so much to unpack here about using LinkedIn and really understanding it. Where can the listeners go and find out more about you and learn how to really use this platform for their success?
Brandon, thank you very much. DanielAlfon.com is the place to go.
I put it on the screen here. Daniel's got a special link for us, DanielAlfon.com/#freebie. It's also in the show notes down below or description, wherever you are. Daniel, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Brandon.
For those of you watching, listening, wherever you are, on whatever platform you are on, I would appreciate if you subscribe. We want to put these episodes out 5 days a week because, yes, we're very, very crazy. I understand that. But also, I want to help you build a more harmonious business and life. And if you keep listening, I promise we will do that. So I'll see you on tomorrow's episode of Harmonious at Lunch.